Good afternoon, Mr. Testa.
Good afternoon.
How you doing today?
Good.
Well, thank you for meeting with me. Just wanted to just talk through the lesson that I saw last week, and saw some strong positive things in it. But it was a good lesson. Just wanted to talk through it and talk about the strategy that we're using, and just see what we can what I saw.
Okay.
So can you just tell me a little bit about the lesson, and then how you felt it went.
Okay. So right now what we're doing in class is we're working on how to use our math department strategy of cubes in order for students to solve word problems. Going back to the ANET data, that was one of our target focuses. The students struggled with creating a visual in the sense of an equation or a table in order to help them solve the word problems. So now just trying to reintroduce the cube strategy so that they're almost using it automatically rather
Then you have to prompt
than
them.
I have to prompt them.
And I know we talked about in the department trying to find ways and strategies for them to just automatically use it. I know, did you get a chance to give the assessment just yet?
No, that's actually happening today.
Okay, so you're going to give an assessment today on that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So so I'll tell you what I saw. So when I came into the room, students were very engaged. They were actively participating. There was a couple of students like with some head down, but like after you gave them prompts, they got up and they were focusing. I noticed when you were going over the strategy and teaching with the strategy, you focus a lot on the evaluating part. Can you just talk through why you specifically, because it was sort of, you went quickly through circle, underline, and box, and you spent a large majority of the time teaching them the evaluate part. Was there a specific reason why you did that?
Yes, when we first introduced the cube strategy, circling, underlining, and boxing was, I won't say mastered, but was the easiest for them to get. They can easily identify the question they have to underline. They know how to circle numbers, at least the key numbers that are important, and then boxing, though it still needs some work, they were able to at least box some, if not all, of the math action or math identifying words. So the evaluate step was just the next chronological movement, going over what makes a visual that they could use to evaluate, how do you evaluate, yeah, so they just needed more time on the next step because they got the first three.
Okay, so it's circle, keywords,
Key numbers.
key numbers, circle key numbers, underline the question, box any action words, math action words or identifying words, and then evaluate is where they come up with their steps, the visual, and the outside information. So that's sort of the heavy part. What about the last part? Have you really focused on solve and check yet?
In a way, evaluating kind of lends itself to solving, but I haven't explicitly focused on solving.
Okay.
It just kind of comes sequentially after evaluating.
So looking at your exit slip that day, I noticed that students, they were circling, they were underlining. Boxing was an area where it was spotty. Some had it, some
Right.
didn't.
They can identify the obvious ones. It's more along the lines of if we're going to say, let me look at the ones. If it were, okay, so like the first question is about a cab ride. There aren't too many math identifying words, but for example, they were able to box plus because it's obvious.
It's obvious. Yeah.
But they weren't able to do like additional, even though it has the word addition in it, they didn't recognize necessarily that it was an important word.
And I was thinking maybe a good strategy for that part, because I think that they will need that part before they can even move. Because the evaluating piece that I saw you go through with them was very thorough. But when I was looking at some of their exit slips, they still were like not boxing the right things, and it wasn't like leading them. So maybe what I was thinking of giving them like a word bank of like the ones that like generally will come up.
Yep.
And that even for the ones that don't generally come up, it probably will prompt them if they see one that's close to it.
Yeah.
So that could be a strategy that you can use. moving forward.
Even to build on that, a live word wall, as in have the ones that are obvious that we could all work on together, but then as they see more and more word problems, let them get up in the middle of the class, you know, in an appropriate way, and go up to the wall and add their word that they might have noticed. So make it a live document in the sense that it's always.
How would you want to structure that? Just get up anytime they want?
Well, I mean, same way they would get up if they were going to sharpen their pencil. They would ask me first, and then I could approve it. But just to say, Mr. Testa, I have a word that I could add to the wall. What is it? Blah, blah, blah.
Do you think right away your students will generally be able to just do that?
I think there are certain students who could get the ball rolling.
Okay.
I think that, yeah, it might not come easily to a lot of students, but if they get the ball rolling, the funny thing about ninth graders is that they are easily influenced in the sense that if they see their friends or their classmates doing well, they want to do well. So I'll once I see, especially even during an observation, let's say,
Okay.
I'll get them participating. The ones who always participate will continue to.
And I saw you were using popcorn sticks. To
Right.
sticks and things like that. Yeah.
Right, but once they see their friends participating, they want to participate. So even those, I won't say low level, but the struggling students, they'll learn how to identify those words because it may signify, it may trigger something in their head.
I like that. So what I did when I was using this strategy, because box was an issue that was coming up in my class as well, and I actually like how you came up with the word wall. I think I want to talk more about that and see how like I can even incorporate that in my class. With the box strategy, what really helped my students was I did give them like a keyword bank, and then I sort of like every warm up had like something to do with the strategy, and I broke them apart. So like one day the warm-up will be about circling numbers, the other day it will be about box, and that really helped them like with spacing it out. Because for me, I've noticed, and maybe you can talk about that too, I don't know, I've noticed that giving them the whole thing at once, they weren't able to actually use it effectively altogether.
Right.
So when I scaffolded it and I broke them apart, they were easier to manage.
Okay.
So even like spending a day maybe with that section, or even since you already taught it, spiraling it back into your warm-ups might be very helpful.
Okay, yeah. So what just popped into my head is because I'm doing the Agile Mind program, and they always provide me with an opener, having an even shorter opener before that, having one word problem every week, and doing one step, since there's five steps, 5 days in a week. One step each day. So for example, introducing the warm-up on a half sheet on Monday and saying all I want you to do today is circle, and maybe having a bigger version up on the board so that they can kind of monitor what we did each day, and then the next day say, okay, now underline the question on Tuesday, box the words on Wednesday, what would you use to evaluate, and evaluate on Thursday, and then Friday finally discuss the answer and check it out.
How would you assess that they've got the strategy, or that it's actually working with what you're teaching them?
Right. So that would have to be, so what I could do is before actually going over it as a class, what did you circle, what did you underline, blah, 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 collecting up the half sheet so I could see who actually did it, and then discuss it as a class, and that way the next day when I hand them back out, if they didn't have it, they could now see it up on the board on the big version and say, oh, okay, that's what I missed, I got it.
That's good. And I actually like that too, because that gives them some sort of ownership. They know they can't opt out.
Right. Right. Or they can't just sit there and wait until we discuss it as a group and then just copy it down. That's a common one.
So moving forward, so like your live word wall, you are going to spiral into your warm-ups each day, a piece of the strategy, since they're 5. You're going to break them up. And then you're going to assess at the end to see if it's even working.
Right.
Do you know what assessment yet, or
no,
what's
I'm not sure yet.
Plan?
So I'm doing that. I guess what we could do is call this assessment today a pre-assessment.
A pre-assessment.
And then introduce those strategies, a live word wall, and then a warm-up every day on each step. And then I guess do a post in a couple weeks.
and then we can track to see the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Really like that. I would love to come in one of these days and see how it's going.
Okay.
Do you know exactly when you're going to start? Are you going to start this Monday?
I'll start. Yeah, I would start Monday. Now
Okay.
that we have a half day on Friday and
Okay.
so on.
And we can even sit, like, Friday, since we have a half day, we can sit for an hour and talk through it.
Great.
And then I can come in on Monday and see how it's going, or would you prefer me coming on Tuesday?
Uh,
Give you a day to work
either
with.
one.
Okay.
Either one.
So I'll come in Monday. How was first period? I can see your first period?
First period is tough only because the students have a little bit of a tardiness issue.
Attendance?
Third or fourth would work.
Okay.
Maybe on your lunch, since we have different ones.
Okay, so I'll come in around there.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tyson. I really
Thanks.
appreciate you meeting with me.